tourism as a lever for national development, with emphasis on Central Asia's positioning in global tourism.
The 10th person is effectively the farmer. Between Dr. Chun and his breakfast are 10 people. And that's why when we say that 1 out of 10 people in the world are supported by travel and tourism, between the visitor and the chicken, because ultimately nothing builds peace like understanding. Because with understanding comes respect. With respect comes human connection. With human connection comes celebration of difference. That's the glory of it. We don't deserve our immigration stamps and our passports unless we've been into the local environment. If I left tomorrow having not gone to the market, how much poorer would I have been in understanding here? That's the opportunity that we have. What is the opposite of sustainability? Bankruptcy, lack of dignity, and extinction. It is not a choice, it's an outcome, but we need to choose that outcome. And if we apply what we feel is responsible to our development efforts, that's when we're being responsible. Because ultimately as well, investors are demanding it. And it's not just the large-scale investments. It's not simply the bullet trains. It's not simply adding in rail systems. It's the little things that make a difference. It's the bicycles. It's cities that are turning into pedestrian zones. It's main roadways that are having bicycle lanes put in. It's all of these things that are creating a better life and lifestyle, not because we need to, but because we have to. Saudi Arabia doing spectacular work in developing its tourism and developing its proposition. 70% of its travelers come from the GCC. So it's making use of the neighborhood before you try to reach out into the world. The ego of tourism comes from global destinations, so that those Western destinations know who we are, celebrate us, but the economics of tourism come from the region and come from domestic travel. We should never forget that. Because at the heart of tourism, it's not just about the value of tourism. It's not just about the value, whatever currency you put it in. At the heart of tourism is the values of tourism. It all goes back to why we travel. And whether we're traveling next door, going from Tashkent to Samarkand, wherever we are going, or we're going from Tashkent to Dubai, Tashkent to Toronto, Tashkent to Tokyo, why do we travel? It's the values of travel that makes the difference, nothing more than that. And that's how you keep it sustainable. And with that, I say a very loving thank you very much.
Professor Erdogan Ekiz to the stage.
Ms. Anita, this was very, very insightful. You made our case for us because Uzbekistan has the hospitality in the DNA because of the Silk Road, and you sharing your valuable experience, energizing our efforts is definitely very valuable. I appreciate that. Now,
everyone, thank you very much for your time. It's been a long, very full day, and I'm very grateful for your attention. I'm grateful for your presence, and I'm incredibly grateful to be back in Uzbekistan, all protocols observed. I'm going to share with you a little bit of a presentation, though I must say to the event team, thank you for that video. I've never seen that before, so thank you. That was very sweet. And there was a lot of smiling teeth in there, and that just an indication of, I love my work. I love what I do, and I think everyone in our industry, this is not about our profession, this is about our vocation. We are very blessed to do this, and I think importantly, I must add, if we are in the room today, it means that we made it through. Because 1,000 days ago, our world was shut. It was completely shut. And there are many people and many businesses and many destinations we know that didn't make it through. So to all of you, I congratulate you. I thank you for everything that you did to make our being able to reconnect the world possible again. And importantly, especially for academic institutions, I'm so grateful for what you did to keep people hopeful about a future in tourism. How do you keep young people, young leaders inspired when the world is shut down? And we thought we would never have events, we would never have handshakes, we would never use business cards again. We live in a world that needs to travel. We live in a world that loves to travel. And nothing showed us that more than when Mother Nature made us stay at home. It showed us how much travel is not simply recreational, it's philosophical, it's medical, it's humane. So I wanted to share that with you all simply as a way of literally pulling the world together. But what's really important about that is that, again, with the pandemic, the world saw very quickly the value of tourism. And it recognized tourism isn't just about people going out to play. It's not just about people getting on airplanes and cruise ships and trains to go on a holiday. It's actually a lifeline. It's a lifeline for economies around the world. Because ultimately, with every single person that travels, wealth is generated for an environment, for a destination, for a community. And importantly, jobs are created. Now, to demonstrate this, I want to show you all something which I enjoy showing as a way of illustrating this. Now, I'm going to use Dr. Kechon, one of my dear colleagues, as my victim. He has no idea what's happening. He's a very trusting man. Sir, I love and respect you, so you are absolutely safe. So, I want to give an example of the importance of our industry. Now, Dr. K, you arrived into Tashkent when?
3 days ago.
3 days ago, you arrived into Tashkent, and you're staying at which hotel?
At Hilton City Hotel.
Fantastic, you're staying at the Hilton City Hotel. And so when Dr. K arrived in late at night, he woke up in the morning, he was fresh and excited to have the third One Belt, One Road, One Tourism conference happening, and he went downstairs to the hotel restaurant needing a good breakfast. So he arrives in at the hotel restaurant, ready for breakfast, and he walks up to someone, and there's this lovely matron d' at the entrance. First person he reaches. She sees him, she's excited, he's excited, and she says, "Welcome, sir, we're delighted to have you. You're going to join us for breakfast." He says,
Thank you very much.
"Excellent." And she says, "Follow me." She takes him to the table, he sits down, and a lovely young waiter arrives at the table and asks him, "Dr. Chun, would you like coffee or tea?"
Yes, that's a good idea. I have a cup of Americano.
Excellent, you're having a cup of Americano. It's the second person that he's met. The waiter goes back, brings the coffee. Absolutely, perfect. Sir, you've had a look at the menu, and you've told me you want to have an egg for breakfast this morning. What kind of egg would you like, Dr. Chun?
Can I have 2 fried eggs sunny side up?
2 fried eggs, sunny side up. Fabulous, good choice. He goes back, the waiter goes back to the kitchen and hands the order for 2 special fried eggs, sunny side up, to the man who's in the restaurant taking the orders, third person that he's seen. The order is then picked up by the person who's behind the counter, who's supporting the chef and all the sous chefs, fourth person. They look at that and say, "Oh, Dr. Chun wants some really good fried sunny side eggs." He hands it to the sous chef, fifth person. The sous chef picks up the eggs, cracks them in the pan. The chef comes around to look at it and make sure that these are very special eggs for Dr. Chun, sixth person. The eggs came into the kitchen by someone who works in the link between deliveries. So they make sure all the fresh produce and the eggs get to the kitchen. That's the seventh person. The person who provided the eggs to the kitchen picked them up from the warehouse that was ultimately fed by someone who works in the warehouse, seventh person. The warehouse person picked up the eggs from the delivery truck, the eighth person. The delivery truck picked up the eggs from the farm where the eggs were delivered by the chickens, the ninth person. The 10th person is effectively the farmer. Between Dr. Chun and his breakfast are 10 people. You can sit back and relax as well. You can have your breakfast now. There are 10 people. And that's why when we say that 1 out of 10 people in the world are supported by travel and tourism, between the visitor and the chicken are 10 lives, are 10 livelihoods. So when the Hilton shut down during the pandemic, 10 people and their universes suffered. That is why our industry matters. Our industry matters because of the egg. It's all about the egg. The impact that our industry has not only on our economies, but on our identities. Because how we welcome people into our countries, how they understand it. Dr. Chung and the excellent breakfast that he had, the warmth of hospitality, the extra bacon and extra hash browns and extra coffee he was given, gives him a sign of what this country represents, not only as a destination, but as a people. Because ultimately, it's not just about travelers who visit a destination. They are sharing their experience of a destination with the world. And it takes not even a second. Because what we have found coming out of the pandemic is that travel is about so much more than where we go and what we learn about other people. It's what we learn about ourselves. And if there's anything that Mother Nature taught us, why we travel becomes a part of who we are and an extension and who and what we love. Now, this was a campaign that was created by British Airways as the world started to open up. Because people were nervous, but it hit us straight in the heart. That is why we travel. I could spend 2 years online on Zoom with Dr. Chun talking about sustainability, talking about the future of tourism, talking about issues about overcrowding, but being together, that is why travel matters. And this is where British Airways putting this campaign together, and there were 2 other executions on video, a myriad of them that went out on outdoors. There's not one word spoken in that campaign. There's not one word that is said, but everyone can understand. Where was the first place you traveled when the world opened up? It probably wasn't a beach. It probably wasn't a hotel. It was to someone that you loved that you missed. You missed a milestone, a birthday, a wedding, a funeral. It showed us all, Mother Nature showed us all, why it is so important that we travel. And this is why it is so important that the One Belt, One Road initiative and One Tourism is brought to life. Because it's about connecting people around the world. We see the One Road, One Belt initiative, we see it as a maritime quest, we see it as a land quest, we see it as an aviation quest. But when we really look at what it means, it's all of this. It's a word cloud of possibility. It's a word cloud of connection. It's a world of connectivity. That is why this initiative is so important. It's not about the how. It's not about the rail links. It's not about the aviation. It's not about the trains. It's not about the cruise ships. It's not about the maritime shipping lanes. It's all about the fundamental why. And what's fantastic is that One Belt, One Road has not only gone into why we trade together, it's gone into why we travel together. And one of the best voices to explain exactly what that means is the Global Head of Tourism, Dr. Zura Pololikashvili, the Secretary General of UN Tourism, who makes it very clear that the One Belt, One Road initiative is more than a bridge of trade. It is a bridge of people, of purpose, and of possibility. It reflects bold leadership. It's not easy making those connections, because those are hard infrastructure connections that make the soft things matter, that make relationships matter, that make policies matter and trust matter for generations. And it's committed to advancing global tourism as a force of connection, of resilience, and of shared prosperity. Its legacy, the legacy of this initiative, will be measured not only in kilometers built, but in the understanding that is forged across generations. And now, more than ever, our world needs that understanding. Because when we look at the world in which we live, the only way we are going to find a world in which we can live peacefully is if we connect. If we connect as people, if we connect as philosophies, and if we can connect as possibilities. And this connection can be as simple as small enterprise. It can be as important as large corporate. It's not about what people are doing, it's how they are doing it, why they are doing it. Importantly, it's about connecting those who were outside of the connections before, especially in parts of the world where women were not able to get a part in the economic environment. It's where young people didn't have a chance. Importantly, it's where poverty held people back. There is no better industry in the world for opening up barriers than tourism. The pathway to engaging is not only through work, it's through pride. And it's people being able to wake up in the morning and feel that they can play a part in something bigger than themselves for the purpose of their families and their communities. It's about skilling people, doing something that is recognized and respected. That is fundamentally important because work is not about labor. It is about participation, it is about dignity, and it's about safety. And again, we saw that during the COVID pandemic. We saw how our industry had so many job losses. We went up to 110 million people, usually the frontline workers in our industry, who were sent home, who lost their jobs, who were taken by other industries. These people counted on us. They want jobs now that are going to keep them safe. Because ultimately, being part of this industry allows people to get in easily, but we need to keep them in. And we keep them in not by keeping them busy, but by keeping them valued. That is such an important part of our industry. And when we look at it, it's very much about where we are right now. It's the young leaders of our industry who are going to take us out of the tangible world into the intangible, utilizing technology, utilizing innovation, utilizing imagination to be able to make connections far beyond the belt and far beyond the road. Because this is far beyond this generation. That is the magic of One Belt, One Road. And One Tourism is the industry that makes the connection far beyond the rail lines, the maritime lines, and the air routes. And ultimately, it connects ways of life. It connects ways of being, and it connects different lives. This goes beyond the human. Because with One Belt, One Road, an initiative like this, and especially tourism, this is where Mother Nature steps in and plays a direct role. Because we are an industry that is now conscious of the responsibility we have to all things green, brown, furry, watery, whatever it might be. All creatures, great and small, rely on our industry to protect them. And that's a huge blessing. But importantly, it doesn't happen by chance. And this is where, when we were on stage just now in the panel, and Michael and I were back and forth talking about models for regenerative travel. Whether we call it regenerative, whether we call it sustainable, whether we call it responsible, whatever we call it, we have to shape it. It's not going to happen by chance. And this is why we say it is a chess game. But if the chess game is played correctly, the possibility is massive. Because as Julia Simpson, the president and CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council, is saying, the One Belt, One Road initiative is a bold expression of leadership uniting nations through investment, innovation, and shared ambition. For global tourism, it opens up unprecedented opportunities to build new routes, unlock untapped markets, a hugely important part of this initiative, and importantly, to be able to shape a more connected, inclusive future, not just for people in tourism, but for the entire community that surrounds them, the entire traveler environment that supports them. That's hugely important. And exactly like we had with the Secretary General of UN Tourism, it's about legacy. It's what this does for the long term. Its true legacy will lie in the transformation that enables across economies, communities, and generations to come. The hard work is happening now, yes, when it comes to investment in infrastructure. But the real benefit is going to come by how we keep it alive. And this is where, when it comes to how we do that, it really comes down to doing what is right and doing it right now. It starts with policy. Ultimately, it comes down to partnerships. So if you look at the university, the Central Asian University and the Hong Kong Polytechnic, that partnership, that policy brought this vision to life. That policy brought us all together. That is fundamentally important. But the policy doesn't have a voice unless that voice turns up the volume. Engagement is vital. This event connecting two universities has connected the world, because you've put out an invitation to the world to be a part of it. That is fundamentally important. And that means that the leadership within that need to be absolutely clear. What is the vision? What are we trying to achieve? And how do we make that happen in a very systemic way? How do you make those things happen? Through partnerships. It has been fantastic being here and seeing how CAU has so many genuine partnerships in place with global institutions around the world, with Cleveland Clinic, with Bloomberg, with all of these different entities. It's not only about what the university and Uzbekistan wants to do with them. Why do they want to partner with Uzbekistan? That is a conscious choice. That is a remarkable testimonial. Even the Hong Kong Polytechnic, it's a choice to be able to work with this university. That's very special, because partnerships ultimately are based on shared promise. A partnership is not a partnership if it's one way. That is going to be a service providing agreement. Partnership makes it work in both directions. But on top of that, it's about participation. It's making sure that the people of Tashkent, the people of Uzbekistan, are a part of shaping the future of Uzbekistan. That the people connected by one belt, one road, are all a part of shaping what the future is along that belt and along that road. Because ultimately, none of this matters, absolutely none of it matters, if the people of the country, the communities of the destinations, are not proud of where they come from. This is people's homes. We are not just simply a destination or a nation. This is a place that someone calls home. And how better to unlock home than to really see that the world is excited to visit. The world is curious about it. There's so much depth of meaning that we have here that doesn't require monetary investment. It requires meaning, giving things context. Now I'm going to ask lovely Karina to stand up. Where is my dear Karina? She's my guardian angel here. I think she snuck out because I made her work very hard. We had a very interesting experience yesterday where we went to the Chorsu market. I wanted to see the local bazaar. It was 1,000 degrees heat outside. We had to cancel as part of our touring because it was just too hot. But I said to her, please can we go to the bazaar? I want to see the bazaar. Nowhere in a destination gives you access to the heartbeat and the values of a destination like a bazaar. So we went in and we're going through the heat and I'm seeing all these different people in their little market stands thinking every single day they're working together. Every single day they are wanting people to come and buy. Now we had a fascinating experience where we're going through and the spirit of generosity was remarkable. Because wherever we went, I kept being fed. I kept being fed berries and I was fed sugar and I was fed cheese. It was lovely. I ended up leaving a lot more fed than I anticipated. But we walked past the bakery section and of course the traditional bread is baking. And there is something just so completely intoxicating about the smell of freshly baked bread. So we're walking through, it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and she went and bought some. And of course, when you buy it straight out of the oven, it's hot. And you're burning your fingers, but you know the best time to eat it is when you're burning your fingers. So we're ripping the bread and I'm nibbling on the bread, and a piece drops when I tear it. And it drops on the ground, and I pick it up, and she said, no, just leave it on the stand where the woman was selling the bread. And I put it there, and I felt as if I was leaving a piece of garbage on her stand, so I felt bad. And I took it, and almost in slow motion, I was walking towards the garbage bin. And she stopped me dead in my tracks. And she said to me, do not put the bread in the bin. And I looked at her, and she said, and this is why. And she explained to me the importance of bread in Uzbekistan, and how it links to human connection, how it links to value, how it links to values. And then I had the pleasure last night of having dinner with a very dear gentleman's beautiful son. He was sitting beside me and he told me, I told him the story about the bread and how I learned so much about the values and the traditions simply by dropping a piece of bread on the ground and almost making a mistake. Now what's important about that mistake, can you imagine if Karina was not there and didn't stop me I would have, out of ignorance, overtly insulted everyone in that room, purely out of ignorance. So I'm sitting telling the story last night at dinner about the bread. And a very dear gentleman's beautiful son says, do you know the full story behind the bread? And then he explains to me the history of bread in Uzbekistan when it came to welcoming people who were seeking refuge and seeking safety. And so suddenly, one visit to a market, a tiny piece of bread, unlocks a country's values, it unlocks its traditions, and it unlocks a history. One tiny piece of bread. And that's why I said in the panel, the storytelling is what keeps culture alive. The sharing of those traditions through stories keeps it alive. And it cost nothing. At the same time, it saved my self-respect. There she is, my beautiful Carmina. So if we can all please applaud to my gorgeous... I warned you I'd tell the story again. That's the difference it makes. And importantly, again, it costs nothing. But if I left tomorrow morning as I am, and I didn't have that experience with this gorgeous girl telling me about the importance of the bread, and then our dear gentleman, our dear chair of the trustees, his son telling me more so, my depth of understanding, not only of Uzbekistan, but of Uzbeks, has been deepened by a simple piece of bread. That's magic. And that's why this initiative, and that's why tourism is so important to people truly understanding the connection between one belt and one road. Because ultimately, nothing builds peace like understanding. Because with understanding comes respect. With respect comes human connection. With human connection comes celebration of difference. That's the glory of it. And that's where this initiative is so important. But what's very important also, and we said this on the panel earlier, is being extremely cautious when it comes to talking about sustainability. Everyone is talking green. Everyone is talking about the importance of sustainability because they have to, but it doesn't mean they're doing it. The one tool that we have that is going to ensure that we develop as a sustainable nation, we develop as a sustainable belt and road, is our conscience. Because we know when we're being wasteful. And as I said on the panel, what is the opposite of sustainability? Bankruptcy, lack of dignity, and extinction. It is not a choice, it's an outcome. But we need to choose that outcome. And if we apply what we feel is responsible to our development efforts, that's when we're being responsible. Because ultimately as well, investors are demanding it. We had 1,000 days to sit and watch the world unfold without us. We saw penguins taking to the streets in Simonstown and Cape Town. We saw animals around the world going back into the city centers. That was their home a long time ago, bless you, not ours. So we've seen the difference that we can make if we invade, whereas we can also see the difference we can make if we support. It's a choice, and investors are now demanding it. And it's not just the large-scale investments. It's not simply the bullet trains. It's not simply adding in rail systems. It's the little things that make a difference. It's the bicycles. It's cities that are turning into pedestrian zones. It's main roadways that are having bicycle lanes put in. It's all of these things that are creating a better life and lifestyle, not because we need to, but because we have to. But importantly, we have to choose to. That's the real fundamental difference. And so if we look at here in Uzbekistan, this was taken yesterday outside of the market, which was just glorious. If we look at Uzbekistan, you are in a very competitive neighborhood. So when it comes to the future of the destination, how are you going to compete? And the best way to compete is to complement. Don't fight the neighbors. Don't fight them. Work with them. And working with them not only from the point of view of what the proposition is of a destination and what the invitation is, but how do you connect? Now some of these photographs are terrible in photographic quality because they were taken at 4 o'clock in the morning yesterday. But when I landed, what a joy to see the size of the fleet here. That's all about connection. It's exactly what I spoke about in the panel. You cannot have a successful tourism economy if people can't move around. They need to be able to connect into the country, but also within the country. And that's the essence of One Belt, One Road. It's about mobilizing connections that will then unlock their own opportunities. But you can't have an opportunity unlocked if you can't get there. So that's really the trick that's behind this. And here at home, we have so much opportunity to bring that to life. You can see from the stats from the World Travel and Tourism Council just how important tourism is to this economy. If we look at 2024, 12% growth change in terms of the tourism economy, 4.7% ultimately of GDP coming through. That's massive. You're already at 5% of your GDP coming through this industry, and you've only just begun. That's the exciting part. But what is critical, GDP doesn't have a heartbeat, employment does. This is not simply about 805,000 people working for tourism. One person, 805,000 times works in this industry. One person, 805,000 times. That's pre-pandemic. We now go to 2024, and you're surging, you're exceeding that significantly. That is one life going home to one family, looking across a dining table covered with food, able to pay school fees, and able to keep the lights on. Every single person we look at in tourism who's making this their future is supporting an entire family and a community. So whenever we look at these numbers, please, I beg of you, don't look at the number of zeros. Look at the number 1 and multiply that by the big statistic that goes along. Because that's the difference. That's the difference that our industry makes. Equally as well, it's very important to identify who's coming to us and where are they coming from. These are the official statistics, these are the official declarations. What was interesting to see is that you have a huge amount of leisure spending and business. But as we know, coming out of the pandemic, business travelers are being encouraged by their bosses to stay a little bit longer, arrive a little bit earlier. Take the time. As long as you have Wi-Fi in your hotel room, you can connect anywhere in the world. That's the beauty of what's happened. Travel for business cannot simply be for business. Dr. Chon has been here, he's working on this conference, he's made a great success of it. He might have arrived a little bit earlier to do a bit of sightseeing. He might be staying a little bit later. Fabulous. We don't deserve our immigration stamps and our passports unless we've been into the local environment. If I left tomorrow having not gone to the market, how much poorer would I have been in understanding here? That's the opportunity that we have. And when it comes to spending, we see very much visitor spending foreign is very high. But we don't have tourism destinations unless we have domestic destinations. Because international tourists often come at a very significant time of the year, linked to school holidays, and rarely do they come more than once or twice. We are institutionalizing unemployment if we don't develop domestic tourism. Because domestic tourism is the only tourism that brings people back over and over and over. They go beyond the main cities and go into the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. They're able to come through the year, importantly, beating all seasonality, keeping a momentum, and they'll learn more. When it's domestic, so the Uzbek people, fabulous. They get to celebrate their own country and go out to play in a place they call home. But very importantly is also regional travel. It is a hugely important aspect, whether it's here, ASEAN travel, for instance, which Dr. Chon knows very well, but 60-70% of ASEAN travel comes from ASEAN. It happens all the way around the world. Saudi Arabia doing spectacular work in developing its tourism and developing its proposition. 70% of its travelers come from the GCC. So it's making use of the neighborhood before you try to reach out into the world. The ego of tourism comes from global destinations, so that those Western destinations know who we are, celebrate us, but the economics of tourism come from the region and come from domestic travel. We should never forget that, which is why I loved being able to take this when I landed at 4:40 in the morning. Look at all the different destinations landing here and the airlines. I think there's 6 different airlines landing before sunrise. That is fantastic because it allows you to create the momentum of activity for different reasons from different destinations. And the more airlines see other airlines buying into working in a country, they want to know what they're missing out on. So seeing this array of airlines encourages others to start building the destination routes into Uzbekistan. Incredibly important. But again, as important as destinations being able to attract airlines in, you need airlines to be attracted to travel around because the connectivity is going to be vital. Because ultimately when we look at investment, it's not only, as I said, the investment in the hardware. The investment needs to be equally in the software. So we look at, yes, we need roads, we need rail, we need infrastructure, we need hotels, we need attractions, but we also need the future. And that's why the Central Asian University, Hong Kong Polytechnic, all of these are fundamentally important because the future of our industry in travel and tourism, it's about the people. And it's not just the travelers, it's the people here who are the future leadership of our industry. That's where the possibility lies. And that's where the sustainability lies. Because if we don't have institutions like this leading globally to be able to show what true hospitality and tourism leadership is, we don't have a future with conscience, we don't have a future with care, and we don't have a future with commitment. That is going to be fundamentally important. So as you can see from this array of my market experience yesterday, it's glorious. Behind every single picture is a family. Behind every single moment is a story. These are the layers of your culture. These are the layers of your possibility that exist. This is how you differentiate. And how you do that then, bring in the AI, bring in the technology, bring in all of that to scale up the storytelling. But every single heartbeat, every single smile, every single piece of bread is what makes a person's home magic. That's the difference that it makes. Because at the heart of tourism, it's not just about the value of tourism. It's not just about the value, whatever currency you put it in. At the heart of tourism is the values of tourism. It all goes back to why we travel. And whether we're traveling next door, going from Tashkent to Samarkand, wherever we are going, or we're going from Tashkent to Dubai, Tashkent to Toronto, Tashkent to Tokyo, why do we travel? It's the values of travel that makes the difference, nothing more than that. And that's how you keep it sustainable. And with that, I say a very loving thank you very much. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a video that I've created for you just to give a bit of a global context on the industry and to bring a bit of energy into the room because it's very warm in here, but it's not close to the heat outside. So as much as it's warm in here, thankfully we're not sitting in the sun. But do sit back and enjoy this. This is simply an aerial view of global tourism and everything that we have the blessing to work for.
Across our shared world, few forces rival the power of travel and tourism. This is not simply an industry, it is a lifeline, socially, culturally, economically, and environmentally. In 2024, tourism contributed approximately $10.9 trillion to the global economy, representing 10% of global GDP and supporting over 350 million jobs. That's 1 in every 10 jobs across the world. More than 1.4 billion travelers crossed international borders, an 11% rise over 2023, and a near full return to 2019 pre-pandemic levels. But what's more meaningful is not just the numbers, it's the renewed sense of purpose behind the movement of travel. The pandemic taught us all that travel is more than a transaction, it is transformation. Now, people are traveling to reconnect with loved ones, loved places, with nature, with meaning, and with themselves. Journeys are becoming more intentional, more restorative, and more responsible. From spiritual escapes to sustainability-focused stays, community volunteering to purposeful business travel, our motivations have deepened. This is travel that teaches, that heals, that elevates, that empowers, and that enlightens. 2024 was not a year of going back. It was a year for moving forward with resilience, with resolve, and with unity. As we look to 2025, with regions not competing, but converging in momentum, each forging a path of recovery shaped by its own values and vision, we see across the world a coming together of societies, of economies, of possibilities. Asia-Pacific is once again the engine of global tourism. With China's outbound travel rebounding and ASEAN connectivity strengthening, the region saw a 60% surge in arrivals. Japan, Thailand, and Indonesia, leaders in value, visa ease, and digital nomad appeal, showing intra-regional travel is the foundation of sustainable growth. Europe has shifted from volume to value of travel. With a 20% rise in receipts, travelers are staying longer and they're spending more. Italy, Greece, and Portugal are embracing the concept of dispersal, sustainability, and rail-based travel, not only air-based, extending tourism's benefits to both capitals and the countryside. The Middle East is defining tourism not as a sector, but as a global signal of vision, a signal of possibility, a national pride, and a signal of global openness. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 has become a movement. The UAE and Qatar continue to pioneer infrastructure and innovation, not to mention international mega events. The region's momentum is not episodic, it is systemic, and it is receiving significant investment behind vision turned into action. Africa's story is one of resilience and rising confidence. South Africa, Morocco, Kenya, Rwanda all saw strong arrivals in 2024. With a focus on infrastructure, skills development, and storytelling, Africa is asserting itself not only as a destination, but as a dynamic collective of experience, understanding, and opportunity. In the Americas, dual dynamics emerged. The US remained a powerhouse, while Canada and Mexico diversified markets and deepened indigenous and nature-based offerings. Moving forward, however, sustained safety, investment, cooperation, and invitation will be key to unlocking long-haul potential. In every region, the energy is clear. Tourism is not only recovering, it is redefining itself. And none of this would be possible without aviation. In 2025, nearly 9.9 billion passengers are expected to fly across over 100,000 flights per day. This is a scale of movement unimaginable just decades ago. But growth comes with gravity and enormous responsibility. Aviation, as we know, accounts for 2% of global CO2 emissions. As such, the sector is embracing its responsibility, scaling innovations in sustainable aviation, such as SAF, sustainable aviation fuel, and demanding bold public-private policy leadership to secure our skies for the future. Yes, we face turbulence, geopolitical uncertainty, climate shifts, community pressures, and other economic pressures on each and every household around the world. But with challenge comes opportunity, and therein lies the extraordinary promise of one belt, one road, one tourism. This is not simply a vision of infrastructure. It is a vision of shared prosperity. It is about connection of people, of policies, of possibilities, and of purpose. It is a platform of co-creation, a bridge of unity stretching from Western China to Eastern Africa, from Central Asia to the Arabian Gulf. Tourism is becoming the connective tissue of a new global era, a force of upliftment, of cultural pride, of regional resilience, and of global unity. Let us continue forward together, with care, with courage, and with conviction, because this is not just tourism coming back. This is tourism becoming what the world needs most, now and for generations to come.